Autism is a word that alone creates lots of emotions. There is fear, confusion, hope, determination. If you are a parent, a caregiver, or someone who is touched by autism, you have lots of questions and lots of desire to understand it. Let's begin the journey to understand it. I have been touched by few books that have changed the way I look at autism. One of the book is Awakened by Autism by Andrea Libotti. She is not just an emergency medicine physician, but she is a mother of a child with autism. In this book, she has distilled all her learnings from managing her own child and managing many more kids in her private practice. In this book, she suggests a paradigm shift of looking at autism, the diagnosis of autism, from the point of view of tragedy to an opportunity to work on the well being of the child and the entire family. This book is divided into two main parts. The first part is intervention, in which she shares some of the different modalities that are helpful in intervention. And the second part is alignment, which is mainly for parents that will help them change their belief system regarding autism. In today's video, we will look at the first three chapters of the first part. Let's begin the journey. She begins the book by describing how at the age of 20 months, her oldest child, Jack, was diagnosed with autism. It was heartbreaking for her. She, being in the medical professional, she didn't know much about autism. So she started her journey of navigating different medical opinions. The initial words that she got from them were very disheartening, but then she took it upon her to educate herself by reading materials, going to conferences, meeting different experts, and so on. Let's understand why autism is such an enigma. Through a study done in 2007, a group of scientists theorized the core functioning of an autistic brain. What they found out that their neuronal system functions in an excessive way, leading to hyper attention, hyper perception, and hyper memory. Due to this excessive input of information, what happens is that it is debilitating and it leads to little functionality or little outcome. This reduced functionality manifests as disengaged presence, and to cope up for this excessive input, they restrict themselves into repetitive routines, daily behaviors, or speech. Another example of how they perceive heightened neuronal inputs is, just example, if they are looking at a door, the kind of patterns or the textures or the lights they experience is so high that it's difficult for them to even recognize that the door is just the door. Sometimes the lights are so penetrating and so excessive that they have to kind of develop coping strategies like flapping their hand in front of their eye so that it can filter out some of the lights that is coming, which kind of soothes them from the pain they experience. Some children find it difficult to understand that their arms and legs are attached to their body, or sometimes where they are in space. Some kids experience excessive tactile stimulation and they have the feeling of thousands of ants crawling their body and biting them. These are some of the difficulties that a child with autism experiences on a day-to-day basis. Now let's come to the next important part, the broken biochemistry. Dr. Libotti learned a lot from a mentor, Dr. Sydney Baker, who is a prominent autism physician. She learned that the kids with autism have hypersensitive immune system, which leads to a lot of allergies and infections. The immune system is tightly coupled with the digestive system, and the digestive system is tightly coupled with the nervous system. One trigger in one system causes cascading difficulties in other systems as well. What makes it even more challenging is that the condition is multifactorial. Each child has his own unique biochemical train wreck because there are multiple entry points from which a problem can occur. So the intervention cannot be one size fits all. In the later part, she discusses some of the limitations in some of the intervention models and some of the therapies. First is the medical model. Typically, The Western doctors spend very little time with their patients, and they are trained to treat X problem with X pill or drug to reduce or suppress the symptom. Typically, in the medical model, we are used to looking at humans as different systems, and there are experts for each of the system who diagnose and intervene. Here we need to keep in mind that humans as overall system are very intertwined. When one thing affects one system, it has its effect on others. So to break the overall vicious cycle, we need to look at things holistically, looking at all the systems to restore the balance. She suggests that we need to understand what each child's needs are by looking at what are the cues that each child's body leaves us, and that will help us determine what can be done about it. This is a trial and error process which makes autism such a complex condition. Another modality she talks about is ABA, Applied Behavioral Analysis. According to her, ABA takes the approach of symptom elimination. For example, if we consider self-stimulation called as stimming, like hand flapping and rocking, these things are socially unacceptable. Sometimes ABA practitioner might seek to reduce these behaviors without understanding why the child is doing so. And in the process of doing so, we might lose the opportunity of child's wellness, and it might also affect the parent-child relationship. She gives a very beautiful analogy that if there's a problem in the roof, we need to fix the roof, not just put a bucket under the leak. If we understand that each child has his unique difficulties and we need to holistically look at the child, we need to not just look at their physical and the behavioral issues, but we also need to look at the emotional and the spiritual aspects of it. By doing so, we are allowing the child's own innate abilities to take over and help in the healing process. For this to happen, we as caregivers need to approach with love, acceptance, and curiosity. We need to embrace the child completely wherever they are and try to understand their world. By doing so, we will inspire them to venture out of their world and join ours. In her personal journey, by the end of the first year post diagnosis, her son Jack was disinterested, disconnected, and crazily involved in spinning activities. He had a lot of immune system and digestive issues. They were experimenting a lot of modalities but with little help. One fine day, she just casually asked him, "What's the color of the ball?" And he said, "Blue." This was his first word and her first happy moment after the year of diagnosis. But it gave a lot of hope and a sense of possibility to her. Coming to the trial and error process, she names it as silver bullets, which parents look for as a solution for the autism puzzle. Some of the modalities that they have tried in the trial and error process are, when she was researching a lot about the decreased blood flow to the brain and lot of neuroinflammation causes a lot of immune system issues in kids with autism, she learned about HBOT, hyperbaric oxygen therapy. So she gave intensive sessions for 45 days and she saw a lot of changes in her son in terms of connectedness. The child was smiling and giving eye contact. But during the 30 days recommended break period, the child regressed back to his old ways, and she realized that this may not be a permanent solution. She suggests that for a child who has chronic digestive issues, can experiment with dietary modifications like gluten-free, casein-free diet or sometimes more restrictive diets. The parents can give it a trial for say 3 to 4 weeks, and that trial period will give them some understanding if it is helping or not. Other thing that they can do is adding supplements. In terms of dietary supplements, in her son's journey, they had tried liquid B6, which had real adverse effects on her son. But still they continued the trial and error process and they figured out that vitamin B12 was a game changer for her son. The next experimentation that they did was chelation administration through IV. She suggests that such kind of invasive methods are too hard for the child's body, so it's better to avoid it. There are far gentler approaches available to remove the toxins and heavy metals from the child's body. She shares the downside of this silver bullet approach in the trial and error process, that when things don't pan out the way it is expected, the parents experience a lot of disappointment over and over again. To overcome this, she suggests that parents observe their child better, understand the unique problem that their child faces, and have an intuitive knowing as to decide which modality to try first compared to the other, and also accept the fact that it is a hit and miss process. Be prepared for it. Further on, Dr. Liboti had a powerful realization that healing is not always about adding treatments, sometimes it is about removing harmful elements. She shares some of very simple yet effective methods by which we can overcome toxicity. Choose organic whole foods and avoid processed and packaged food. Switch to personal care products without harmful chemicals, SLS and paraben free. Switch to natural household cleaning products. Drinking filtered tap water. Installing simple water filters under the sink and in the shower. Choose a lead free and low odor paints for your house. Have furniture that do not emit volatile organic chemicals. Use dehumidifiers in the damp rooms, running a HEPA filter in the bedrooms during the night. Reduce the electromagnetic radiation by keeping the Wi Fi off during the night and keeping the cellular phones away from the children. When it comes to vaccination and autism, the author suggests that the helpful discussion is not whether to vaccinate, but how to vaccinate in a safe manner with safe vaccines. She suggests that infants' bodies are not equipped enough to mount the appropriate immune response as older children. She suggests that delaying certain vaccinations like DTaP and hepatitis B and keeping some time gap between MMR and chickenpox shots could be considered. In her personal journey, they figured out that her house was infected with black mold, so they immediately shifted. After a month of shifting, they saw significant improvement in her son. He no longer had chronic sinusitis and no asthma attacks. Couple of years after Jack said his first word, one fine day they were sitting and looking through the window, and Jack said, "Daddy, go," while he saw his father leaving in the car. She looked at Jack and she couldn't contain herself. She started jumping up and down. This was the first time he had uttered two words together. It was a major breakthrough, and they kept on experiencing such magical moments after that. In the coming video, we will learn more about Jack and Dr. Liboti's journey, and we'll gain a lot of insights from this incredible book. Remember, a small change can bring about a huge transformation. So stay tuned and let's be in tune.